coming online? Yes? Mr. Adiri Singh and Sri Tanagi? Can you all hear me? Okay, thank you. Right, so today we are going to start a new chapter, which is also a special chapter. Today what we are going to discuss is strategic issues in entrepreneurial ventures and small businesses. As you are already aware, so we have been discussing different aspects of strategic management and strategic planning, and last week we discussed the technology aspects of strategic management. So there's a misconception such as that the strategic planning approach or strategic planning model that we use on our business can only be used in big organizations or big corporates. So you start with the mission and the vision and the environmental scanning. You need to have a lot of people involved in that. You need to have a separate strategic planning department. So you need a lot of resources to carry out strategic planning exercise. So as a result of this, the strategic planning process is kind of limited to the large organizations. However, to a certain extent, this principle in strategic management can be applied in small business ventures as well as large enterprises as well. So let us first discuss the principle of. Let us first discuss how we can apply these principles in strategic planning in small businesses and small ventures. Now let us first discuss what's the difference between a small business and an entrepreneurial venture. That is first question we should try to answer. What's the difference between an entrepreneurial venture and a small business? Then what we should look at is how to use strategic decision making process to form a new venture. Then we are trying to identify trying to differentiate between the idea and an opportunity. Then we try to identify the characteristics of a typical entrepreneur, and then we will evaluate what are the stages of development of a small business, starting from a new venture to going up to a very large organization, and so on and so forth. Now, if you look at the importance of a small business as well as entrepreneurial ventures are if you look at any country, now the statistics I have shown here is mainly limited to Sri Lanka, but if you look at any economy, the small ventures as well as the entrepreneurial ventures are the one that contributes to the GDP the most. Now, for example, if you look at Sri Lanka, the small businesses as well as entrepreneurial ventures do contribute nearly 70% to our GDP. And if you look at these entities, they do contribute more than 80% of our export revenues. And in Sri Lanka, it is estimated that over 40,000 small businesses, and there are over 100,000 micro enterprises. If you look at these numbers in United States, in US, there are approximately 23 million small businesses, and this number is about 99% of all the businesses registered in US. They generate 60% to 80% of the new jobs annually, and in US, it produces almost 30% of the total export values. So these are some of the numbers. So you will realize how important the small businesses as well as entrepreneurial ventures to an economy. If you look at any economy, it is kind of helpful to any economy. But the problem is there are no standard definition for a small venture. There is no standard definition for a small venture or what is known as a micro enterprise. So different people use different definitions for this. So one such definition is in Sri Lanka actually. Any organization that employs less than 50 people as well as which has asset value of less than 20 million LKR, which is considered as a small business. I mean, this is a definition that's being used in Sri Lanka. Obviously, if you look at different, this is a government definition, by the way, in Sri Lanka. I mean, if you look at banks, they do define depending on the turnover of the organization, what is micro and what is SME and what is large, likewise. So there is no standard definition as such, but since we study this particular topic, we need to have an idea about a small business is. So we can assume any business that falls into this category, less than 50 million as well as less than 20 million asset value in 1 year, can be considered as a new venture. Then let's look at what are the characteristics of a small business. Small business can be defined as something which is independently owned and operated. So small business is something independently owned and operated by somebody, and also not dominant in the field. They're not a dominant player in the field, just me too player. If you look at tea exporters in Sri Lanka, you have dominant players like Akbar Brothers, Dilma, likewise. And as well as you will see small firms as well, who is exporting teas, probably exporting a couple of containers a month, likewise. So they are independently owned and operated, but they are not significant players in the field, but they do contribute to a certain extent to export revenue. So that's what is meant by not dominant in the field. It does not engage in innovative practices. So innovation is kind of limited. We discussed what innovation is in the previous chapter, but they do not engage in such innovation practices. So that is what a small business is. Now let us look at what an entrepreneurial venture is. So entrepreneurial venture, in contrast, in any business whose primary goal is profitability or growth, and most importantly, they carry out innovative business practices. So if you look at any business, their primary goal is either the profitability or the growth. But only difference between a small business firm as well as entrepreneurial venture is that there is an element of entrepreneurship in that. So therefore, the differences between a small organization as well as an entrepreneurial venture is not depending on the type of goods or services that they sell, not really depending on the type of goods or services that they offer, not the business that they're involved in, but how they look at the goal or the growth of the organization as well as the innovation. Now, for example, if you look at Pick Me as an example, now it's a small business. They're in the business of providing taxi services online. That's a kind of common example. So if you really look at the business that they're involved in, there is no difference between the business that they operate and Kangaroo Cabs. Kangaroo Cabs also provide taxi services, whereas Pick Me also provides taxi services. So in terms of the types of goods and services that both these companies are offering, there's not much of a difference. However, if you look at kangaroo cabs, they run the business in a traditional manner. You have a number to call and you get the driver in. So that's a traditional way of operating that particular business. If you look at Pick.me, they came with a very innovative business model. So they have an online platform where the people could order a taxi and they can connect the driver and the rider online through the GPS technology. So the Pick.me looked at this particular business as a more of an innovative way. So that differentiates between a small business firm. For example, Kangaroo can be seen as a small business firm, whereas Pick.me can be seen as an entrepreneurial venture. So that's the difference between entrepreneurial venture and a small business firm. Now, one other characteristics of the small businesses is that every year tens and thousands of businesses, small businesses are also getting failed also. So that doesn't mean just because we have small businesses, all the businesses are successful. You will see a situation where sometimes small businesses are also getting failed due to many reasons. We are going to study these reasons in a while. But having said that, there are many ways and means that the small businesses are getting failed also. There are many reasons as such. So as a result of this, small ventures as well as entrepreneurial ventures are considered as high risk projects. There are many reasons. There are many reasons for small businesses to fail. Obviously, small businesses are fairly high risky. At the same time, there are many reasons why these businesses are getting failed. One reason, what has been cited in research, is that their inability to cope with the growth. The business is growing at a rapid pace, but these businesses are unable to cope up with the growth. That is one reason why some of these businesses are getting failed. And also another reason, lack of capital. Lack of capital is also another reason that has been highlighted for small businesses to fail. So they don't have money to grow the business to the next level. And if you really look at all these two factors, the inability to sort of handle the growth as well as inability to get the capital required to run the business appear to be a strategic management issue. For example, if the company does not have a strategy to start with to reach the customer, as well as if they are unable to develop systems or the controls to run the organization, and also they don't have sufficient MIS to keep track of the performance, they will obviously have an issue in managing their growth, as well as they will have an issue of obtaining sufficient capital to the organization. So if you really look at why small businesses do fail, it's primarily boiling down into lack of strategic planning. So that is why even for a small organization, small entity, some kind of strategic planning is important, because you should have at least a basic level of strategic planning in this organization. In organizations, a small organization when you compare to a large organization. If you really look at entrepreneurship as a concept, is becoming important throughout the world. And if you follow Sri Lanka also, last couple of years, during last 5-6 years, there has been some kind of entrepreneurship culture that is popping up in Sri Lanka as well. Now, many universities now started offering entrepreneurship as a subject matter itself. If you look at Moroto University, they have a entrepreneurial hub. There's a unit inside the university itself to help the undergraduates to start their own business. And there are venture capital funds now available in Sri Lanka who could sort of provide required funds as well as kind of professional advice from them to move on. So if you look at Blue Ocean Ventures, they have a competition called Venture Engine, where those who have a very clear business plan or business idea could pitch for funding. So this is something that was not available in Sri Lanka sometimes back. So entrepreneurship is something that has been sort of has been evolved in Sri Lanka during the recent past, partly driven by the ecosystem, partly driven by the startup culture. In many countries, this has been there. So again, according to the World Bank, some countries are more supportive for entrepreneurship than some other countries. So if you look at if you rank the countries in terms of starting entrepreneurial venture from easiest to difficulty, so if you rank all these countries that has been there in the world in terms of how easy to start entrepreneurial venture, there are some countries that comes top of the list. Australia comes, countries like Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Denmark, United States, Singapore, Hong Kong, and the Netherlands. So these are the countries in terms of starting entrepreneurial venture, they are the easiest. The ecosystem is there, the capital is there, the knowledge is there, the know-how is there, the culture is there. So in these countries, it is said, it is found in research that these are the countries that is mostly supportive to start an entrepreneurial venture as well as a new venture. If you look at the countries that countries that are not supportive in terms of number of days that it takes to start a new venture, slowest are Haiti, Laos, Indonesia, Mozambique, Brazil, Angola, Burkina Faso, Zimbabwe, and Venezuela. So these are the countries that are not supportive in terms of starting a new venture. For example, now in US, even though it's one country that is been there in the top of the top 10 countries, which is easy to start a new venture, situation is getting changed. There are new investors who always tap the young talent, fast-growing companies, they mentor. The policies are getting changed. Venture capital is becoming more available. Likewise, if you look at Sri Lanka, because most of our understanding has to be applied in Sri Lanka, if you really look at Sri Lanka, what matters in a country's entrepreneurial culture is the country's attitudes, the beliefs of the people. So culture plays a bigger role. The culture in the organization, culture in the particular country, plays a bigger role in nurturing the entrepreneurship. Now, for example, if you look at Sri Lanka as a country, we are a little bit risk averse as a nation. Whereas entrepreneurship itself needs some kind of risk taking. So we don't allow or we don't teach the risk taking behavior. We don't inculcate that risk taking behavior from the childhood. From the childhood itself, when it comes to in our education system itself. So we always ask students to perform better in the exams, go to a university and get a degree, and work in a reputed organization, and most likely we encourage them to find a government job. which is the least risk option. So our culture has been such last 50, 60 years from the days of independence. So that is one of the reasons why entrepreneurship in Sri Lanka has been limited to few individuals. So countries, attitudes of the people, what your education system encourages you to do matters a lot when you are inculcating entrepreneurship culture. But if you look at a country like US, country like Japan, their education system allows people to think independently. The education system allow people to take risks. The education system always encourage people to start their own businesses rather than working for somebody else. So that is why if you really see in Sri Lanka, the present entrepreneurship culture is mainly coming from people who went abroad and studied there and came back to Sri Lanka. Because in those countries, the education systems, the higher education institution, do always encourage you to start new businesses and new practices. So those who are running the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Sri Lanka are the people who have studied abroad and came back. So that explains why some countries are more entrepreneurship oriented, whereas some countries are lagging behind. So coming back to entrepreneurship venture, so let us examine the characteristics of an entrepreneur. So entrepreneur is a person who organizes and manages a business and who takes the risks, and as a result of that he is willing to take a profit. So entrepreneur is ultimate strategist of the organization. So if you look at the typical entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka, I can name a few. Mr. Vagapitiya, who is the chairman of Laugh Holding. He's an entrepreneur that has been successful in Sri Lanka for some time. So he's a person who set up an organization, manage a business, and took a risk, and as a result, he is managing a multi-million rupees business today. So, I mean, there are many such entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka. I can name thousands of names. So, Mr. Vagapiti is one such name that has been in the recent past who has been a successful entrepreneur. Mass Holdings, their family, Amalians, again set of entrepreneurs who took an opportunity, who took a risk, and then again they are very successful business venture in Sri Lanka. Brandix, Ashraf Oma and his family, again took the risk, set up joint ventures with foreign parties, took the new technology, new business practices, provided thousands of job opportunities to Sri Lankans. Now it's a multi-million-dollar business, which is a very one of the most respected business entities in Sri Lanka. Hydra Monies, online to apparel industry. Then Dilma, Mr. MJ Fernando, again an entrepreneur who managed to build a successful trade brand. Probably that is the most valued brand in Sri Lanka, which is recognized in all over the world as well. So again, it's a characteristic of an entrepreneur. So these are the few people. There are many names as such. Mr. Perera himself is an entrepreneur. So there are a set of entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka who took our economy to the next level. So I named very few names. So characteristics of an entrepreneur is that he's a person who makes all the strategic ways as well as all the operational details. So if you look at, by now you know, since you have studied strategic management, you will know there are 3 levels of strategy: corporate strategy, the business strategy, and the functional strategy. So when you're an entrepreneur, you take the decision related to all 3. You decide what corporate strategy is, what are the business strategies, and what are the functional strategies. So if I could summarize, entrepreneur is a strategic planner by himself without realizing it. So basically, entrepreneur makes all the strategic planning and strategic decision, but without realizing those are strategic plans. So for example, there's example of, for example, all of you are familiar with the, when you play, people use these headbands. Especially tennis players as well as badminton players, you use these headbands as well as handbands. Now this is an idea came up by one particular organization called D bands. So how he ended up getting this particular idea was that earlier when people play, all the players, there was no such band. They used to wear a kind of a cloth in head to prevent the sweat falling from your hair to the body. And what has happened was, when people play, they always has to adjust this clothing band because it doesn't really fit in with your head. One person has seen this. He realized, look, these people are keep on adjusting this. Why not develop a band which is elastic so that it always sticks in your head or in your arm, which is the development of a D band. And so this particular person has seen there's a market for this. There's always a problem statement, and he came with a business idea. And this business idea is something that has not been tested earlier, and he took a risk. He got some borrowed money, and he created a multi-million business, so which is known as D-band story. And people at sometimes may come up with saying that this is a stupid idea when you start something like that. So you need to have the culture and the courage and the belief in your idea, in your idea, so that you should be able to do something. So let me show you a video right now about a typical new business model, right? Okay, so let me present desktop. कौन present desktop करना है? करो present desktop करना है, बदल present desktop, present. Okay, thank you. So let me present a particular case study. So this particular venture is known as Verby Parker. So first let me play this video.
I found that the best businesses come from real needs. The business was really, how can we create a solution here?
So those who are online, can you all see this? Those who are online, can you all see this? Can you all hear the video? Okay, cool. So this is a company called Warby Parker.
My name is Dave Gilboa. I'm one of the founders and co-CEOs of Warby Parker, which is an innovative new eyewear brand that's sold exclusively online for a fraction of the price of retail stores. And for every pair of glasses we sell, we donate one to someone in need.
I'm Neil Blumenthal, one of the founders of Warby Parker. Along with Dave, I'm co-CEO.
I worked as a management consultant for Bain & Company for about 3 years. Didn't want to work in finance for the rest of my life, and really wanted to go back to school to create an organization that really had a positive impact in the world and actually helped people. And so decided to go back to business school.
It was there that I met 3 amazing guys, Jeff, Andy, and Dave. And during our first and second semester, we started to think about if we could build an organization that could sort of help have a positive impact. And that we loved glasses, hated paying $500 for them, and we thought that there had to be a better way to sort of buy and sell glasses here in the US. So we put together a business plan and figured out, well, if we design the frames that we loved and we work directly with the manufacturers, we could perhaps bypass the middlemen and be able to provide a $500 product at $95. So that's what we've done with Warby Parker. We literally produce frames on the same production lines, use the same materials as the $500 pairs, but only charge it $95 with prescription lenses because we're selling direct to customers online.
And we're able to do that because the eyeglass industry is controlled by a handful of huge multinational corporations that charge huge markups at the expense of consumers. And eyeglass technology, it was invented 700 years ago. And there's really been little innovation in the industry since then. And when we were creating this company, we also recognized that there's over 1 billion people in the world that need eye care that can't afford $95, which is what we charge for our glasses. And so we decided that for every pair of glasses we sell, we're going to distribute one to someone in need throughout the world.
Our target market, hopefully in the future, would be everyone that wears glasses. Right now, because of our very bold, vintagey look, we focus more on sort of the young demographic. Plus, we don't do bifocals or progressives, which would hit the older demographic.
So we had each experienced paying $500 for a pair of glasses, and that hurt. So we thought that there had to be a better way. So the business was really, how can we create a solution here?
We wrote a 40-page business plan and entered the school business plan competition. And it was really helpful for us to organize all our thoughts, kind of pressure test all our assumptions. And so that was really the first step. We actually launched while we were full-time students. During our last semester of school, we were still full-time students working out of our apartments.
So we launched the company to features in Vogue and GQ. 2 days later, we were in Daily Candy before we had a chance to reach out to them. Within 3 weeks, we hit our first year sales targets. Within 4 weeks, had sold out of our top 15 styles. We ended up having a wait list of 20,000 people. It was crazy. Our first employee we told was going to work around 10 hours a week while the 4 of us were in class because we were still in graduate school at the time. Her first week she worked 90 hours. And now she's our operations manager and is managing over 15 people.
When I began at Warby Parker, I was employee number 1, and it's now grown to almost 30 employees. And it's been very exciting to see the Warby Parker family grow so quickly.
Throughout the process, we're always asking ourselves, do we have enough information to invest more time and money into it? Because when you're building a business, you have to believe in it, and it has to be grounded in data and information.
So we decided we would launch exclusively online, where we would be selling the glasses for a fraction of the price of retail stores. And so that alleviates one of the pain points, the price. But we recognize that people actually need to try the glasses on, and they want to do that at their own pace without the pressure of a salesperson.
We found this amazing facial recognition software that allowed you to virtually try on the glasses. Literally upload your photo and you can see the glasses on your screen. But then we thought, there might be some people that actually want to physically touch and hold the glasses. So we developed this idea of a home try-on program, the first of its kind in the US, where you could select 5 frames, we ship it to you for free, and you have 5 days to try on those glasses with no obligation to buy. If you like 1 or 2 of them, great, then you place the order, and at that point we put in the prescription lenses. Otherwise, no harm, no foul.
One of the best ways for us to interact with our customers is when they come into our New York headquarters here in Union Square. And so we actually have this wonderful showroom in which customers are able to make appointments to come in and try on glasses, and we make it a very fun experience.
I'm having a blast running this company, and in 10 years, really the biggest challenge is going to be to maintain that startup culture as we grow into a really big company. We've tried to create a really dynamic environment for people to get opportunities that they wouldn't in other organizations. And so we're hiring people out of college, and within 6 months, they're managing a team of 3 to 4 people.
I think it's really important for young companies to create systems up front to ensure good governance. Our board of directors is the 4 of us founders, Jeff, Andy, Dave, and I. We meet quarterly, and we focus a lot on governance and on strategy and making sure that we're going to sort of achieve the mission and vision that we set out, when we were all in Philadelphia at Wharton together. I think that if I was to look back to how come Warby Parker had so much success in a very short period of time, it was because every decision we debated, we thought about every single contingency, and that's really difficult to do. But if you dedicate the time to it and really push each other in a positive way, then you're going to have a better outcome.
One of the challenges of starting a company, but also what makes it the most fun, is that every day I'm asked to do 20 things that I don't know how to do. There's no one I can ask for how I should accomplish those things, and that's everything from finance, supply chain, web design, and it never gets boring, and that's what's great about entrepreneurship.
Our 2 biggest challenges today are having enough inventory. The second thing that is the most difficult is hiring. Right? How do you find great talented people that sort of fit the culture that you're building? And we get lots of resumes, but it's really sort of zeroing in is, does this person really want to be here? Does this person fit the culture that we're trying to make? And do they get along with the other people in the organization? Because we're a tight-knit team and we work closely together, and if that fit is even off a little bit, it can really harm productivity. 10 years down the road, we hope to have built a model for how for-profit companies should behave. We think that for-profit companies can be engines for social change and positive impact, only if they take a holistic view and they think about all the different stakeholders, and that's what we're trying to do. So 10 years from now, we would love it if people looked at Warby Parker and said, that is a company doing good, and that was a company that inspired me to start my own organization to do good in the world.
How should I go back? Click. Right. Close it. Right. Okay, so this particular video you have seen about a company called Wendy Parker. So it's an eyewear company, eyewear brand actually. They are selling exclusively online, and so you will see kind of would have seen some kind of glimpse of how a entrepreneurial venture is managed. For example, this particular company has been started by 3 individuals who have been graduates, or basically when they are finally undergraduate, they started a particular business. So what they thought was, so the pain point that we're suffering is because a pair of glasses is somewhere around $500, and they want to sell something at $95 by eliminating the middleman. So they managed to do so simply by selling eyewears online. which nobody has thought of. So they were trying to bypass the retailer, and they want to go to directly to the end customer by offering eyewear online. So it's a kind of challenging one because people want to wear it and see. So they have come up with innovative business practices for them to wear and see. So they shift 5 pairs of glasses free of charge, so they can try and return the rest. So they have come up with this kind of innovative business model. So in this particular case, the ultimate strategist is the entrepreneur. So in this case, there are three of them. So they decide what to sell, where to sell, and how to manage the inventory, how to recruit people, how to create a culture, and all these things. So all these decisions are made by these particular entrepreneurs. So would have got an idea about how a entrepreneurial business is run. For example, the way they sit, they don't have cubicles. They have open flow arrangement. They are dressed in casual. Few employees, so they all of them are young, quite young. So they have a shared responsibility. So that's how the entrepreneurial ventures are run. Not like big corporates where you have different attire, different seating arrangements, cubicles, and etc. So that is one example how entrepreneurial venture is run. So let us see use of strategic planning and strategic management in a small business. And research shows that strategic planning is strongly related to small businesses' financial performance. If you look at a survey done, 86% of the performed strategic planning company has done has obtained 40% more return compared to the company who's not doing strategic planning. So that is one research finding. And also they have also done some research and found out why some companies are not willing to do strategic planning in small businesses especially. So some of the reasons that you see in the screen. So most of the people came up with the reason that we don't have enough time for strategic planning. Because if you are running a small business as well as entrepreneurial venture, most of your time is spent on day-to-day operating activities. And by the time you deal with day-to-day operating activities, you don't have time and energy for long-term planning. So most of the companies do not carry out, or so to a certain extent avoid, strategic planning simply because they don't have time when they spend their time for day-to-day operating problems. This is not limited to entrepreneurial ventures, as well as even the large firms, even in Sri Lanka, don't spend quality time on strategic planning simply because they are bombarded with day-to-day operational activities. And people will ask, when you ask this question, do you have time to do strategic planning? They will ask this answer most of the time. How can I be expected to do strategic planning when I don't have time to have my lunch even? So these are the type of answers that you get from an organization when you ask them, why don't you do strategic planning? They simply come up with saying that we don't have enough time. And sometimes people simply don't do strategic planning, simply they are unfamiliar with the strategic planning as well as the benefit that it could give to the business. So most of the people see planning as an activity as a time waster, as well as it will limit their flexibility to carry out the business. And the third excuse that most of the businesses that they don't do strategic planning is that they don't have the skills. Especially if you look at the small business managers, they often lack the skills necessary to begin strategic planning. Sometimes do not want to spend money to do strategic planning, as well as, especially if you want to get some consultancy and research done from outside parties, they simply don't want to spend that money out. because they don't know they will be in the business in the following week, so therefore they want to save money. As a result of that, they will not have enough skills. If they don't have those skills, you don't need to get it from outside, so they are not willing to spend that money. And most of the time they come up with these answers. Deep down, I know I should plan, but I don't know what to do. I'm the leader, but I don't know how to lead the planning process. Most of the people don't have the skill set to lead the planning process. And also lack of trust and the openness is another reason why small business owners, managers don't do strategic planning. Because if you really look at the small business owners and the managers are very sensitive regarding the key information about the business, and as a result of that, they are not willing to share such information with either with their employees or outsiders. Because of this reason, companies simply don't carry out strategic planning exercise. So, I mean, this explains why most of the small companies are not doing strategic planning. Mainly, they don't have time to do so. Secondly, they are not familiar with the strategic planning process itself, and they don't have the skills to do so. And finally, even if they have requirement, they don't trust a third party or their employees. They may think, okay, these employees may take this information out, and they may start their own business. So as a result of that, they don't keep their businesses or the strategic plan open to a third party. So this is some of the reasons that has been identified as some of the barriers for strategic planning. So, and the firms do carry out strategic planning. The strategic planning process is more informal in small companies than in large corporations. So you do, when the organization, if you really look at those who carry out strategic plan, they are the organization who are they carry out in a very formal manner. That's also another difference in a small organization versus large organization, whereas in large organization you have a very formal strategic planning process. You have environmental scanning, internal environmental scanning, development of strategies, strategy analysis, implementation and control. You go through the entire process in a formal environment, whereas in a small organization, you don't go through that level of detail as well as that level of planning when it comes to strategic planning. However, it shows that when the entrepreneurial firms mature, its strategic planning process tend to become more formal. So you need to have some kind of maturity in the business in order to have a formal strategic planning process. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Mintzberg entrepreneurial model, strategic planning model, than the strategic planning model. So most of the entrepreneurial ventures do follow the Mintzberg entrepreneurial mode of strategic planning. And they've mainly come up with a new idea, try that, it doesn't work, go for something else, try that, and continue what works. So later on they may move into a adaptive mode of strategic planning. So that is what is being found in mostly in strategic planning model. So basically let us see how we can inculcate strategic planning, how we can use the same strategic planning model that we use in large organization in a small organization. For example, rather than asking for defined mission, you may ask the question, what do we stand for? Now if you look at the Wendy Park example, what do they stand for? If you ask this particular question from that particular company, it will be easy to develop a strategic plan. Now, if you go and ask this set of students, define their mission, they will laugh at you. But if you ask from this particular question, informal question, what do we stand for as an organization? They may come up with saying, okay, we stand to sell a low-cost branded eyewear. That's what exactly they are doing. If you ask them to set their objectives, the better question to ask is what are we trying to achieve? And if you ask them to formulate a strategy, how are we going to develop a lower cost eyewear, branded eyewear? How can we beat competition? So how they are going to do it? They are trying to eliminate the retailer. How they are going to beat the competition is that they are going to completely go online. So that's their strategy. And if you really look at the Wendy Packer has almost all the components for strategic plan, traditional strategic plan that we have studied, but they don't use those terms. Determine policies. So what sort of ground rules should we all be following to get the job done right? I'm sure even the small organizations have some kind of policies and guidelines within themselves for them to operate the business. So those are the policies. So instead of establishing policies, you may ask the question, how should we organize this operation to get what we want done as cheaply as possible with highest quality possible? Prepare pro forma budgets. How much is going to cost us and where can we get the cash? It's a simple question to ask. Specify the procedures. How much detail do we have to lay things out so that everybody knows what to do? Determine performance measures. What are those few key things that will determine whether we can make it or not? How can we keep a track of them? So in the formal environment, you use the terms like vision and the mission and the programs and the policies and the procedures. Whereas in the informal environment, you do the same thing, but you don't ask those formal questions. But still, you try to achieve those informal measures as well. So if you look at the process of strategic planning in a business enterprise or a small business, we can follow the following guidelines. The first step in developing a strategic planning process for a small entrepreneurial venture is that developing a business idea. So basically there you should define what your product is, what your target customer is. So that is something you need to define at the very beginning. So what is your product? What is your target market? So if I sort of relate this particular particular example with the Wendy Parker, so they have defined their product as selling a low-cost eyewear brand, and their market is those who are willing to buy it online. Mainly they're targeting, it appears that they're targeting youth. So youth who will buy their particular products online. And the company may not be offering bifocal or progressive lenses towards the old demographics. The current business model will not support that. So Wendy Parker's business model is for people who use eyewear for fashion purposes, not for people who use eyewear for disease, for eye disease or for visual diseases. So that's not a target market. So you need to really define your product as well as market. So this is where the concept of idea comes into the picture. Idea is a concept, that product that currently does not exist, or probably a market niche, or it could be a brand new concept, a radical innovation, or an improvement to the current product or service. It could be an incremental innovation. So idea can be developed from a personal experience, etc. So for example, you could do in multiple ways. It could be a completely new idea. It could be a radical innovation. It could be an expansion of the existing product or service. So like this, there could be multiple ways of doing so. So once you establish your product or service with a target market or a customer, the next step is to scan and assess the external environment to locate the factors in the external environment that could provide opportunities as well as threats. So this particular company, they have scanned the environmental that they found out that there is an opening, there is a segment of the market who's willing to buy eyewear online at a very, as long as if you are willing to provide at a very low price. So it's an opportunity that this set of people found in this particular company called Wendy Parker. Scan the external environment for opportunities as well as threats. So this particular company has done that. Thirdly, you need to scan the internal factors. Scan and assess the internal factors relevant to the new business. For example, the entrepreneur should assess the personal assets or the people, type of people whom you should recruit for the business. Areas of expertise. You need to have expertise in sales. Obviously, in this particular case, you need to have expertise in online sales, or expertise in online web development, online marketing, supply chain management, other type of expertise that is required in the business of Wendy Parker. Abilities, experience, type of expertise that you require in the new venture. So you should scan the internal factors. You should come up with the skills, expertise and abilities required for the new business. The next step is analyze the strategic factors. Analyze the strategic factors in light of current situation using SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. The venture's potential strengths and weaknesses must be evaluated in light of opportunities and threats. And you can do this particular analysis is using SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses and the opportunities and the test. Then decide to go or no go. If the basic business idea appears to be a feasible business opportunity, the business should be continued. An opportunity is an idea for a new product or service with a market that is willing to pay for that product or service so that it can form a basis of profitable business. So in this particular case, this particular Wendy Parker has found a market who's willing to pay $95 for a pair of eyewear, and they are willing to buy it online. So that's a business, it's an opportunity that they have found out. Otherwise, if there's no opportunity, the further development of the idea should be cancelled unless the strategic factors do change. Then finally, you should develop a business plan. You should develop a business plan, generate a business plan in order to transform the idea into a reality. So let us look at what are the components of a business plan. So what you see in this particular diagram is what we have described so far. Develop a business idea, product and the segment. Then you scan the external environment. Then you assess the internal factors. Then you locate potential opportunities and threats. Then analyze the strategic factors like SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Then, if the business is feasible, develop a business plan, and if not, stop the business and start with the first step. So once you get into the business plan stage, you need a business plan for several reasons. The first reason that you need the business plan is to secure the capital, because if you really want to get a investor or bank funding, they will ask for a business plan. A business plan will usually have the following components into it. This is what you see is a suggested content of a strategic business plan. It should have the nature of the business. It should have an idea about the market analysis, strength and weaknesses. It should have a marketing plan. It should have an operational plan. It should have a financial plan. And it should have about a section about the organization and the management, who's going to run the organization, human resource plan, ownership, risk analysis, timelines and the milestone, how we are going to implement the strategy, evaluation and control, and the summary. So these are the typical components of a business plan that you need to present to typical investors. Because especially this requires some kind of expertise, because for you to convince a third party to invest in your business, you should tell them how you are going to manage your business. So business plan is a very important element in any form of a venture. Typically, you need to, most of the time, the entrepreneur will not have the skills to develop this level of business plan. So there you need to get the expertise of an outside party to develop a business plan. Perhaps the entrepreneur himself will not have the skill set as well as the time to develop a business plan from the scratch. So therefore, at this stage, you need to get some consultant or outside party who could help you to develop a business plan at this particular level. Once you prepare the business plan, you should have the implementation. Item number 7, strategy implementation. So you should have action plans and the procedures. That's what we use in any organization. And once you start implementing a business plan, you should have an evaluation mechanism to make sure that you are in line with your projected targets. So evaluation and control comes in at the last phase in this particular business plan model. And finally, if you successfully deploy your actions, you don't have to go back to level 1. But if you are not meeting your desired level of outcome, you have to go back and start from this particular section from scratch. So this is how a strategic planning process can be, how a typical strategic planning process that can be incorporated into a small venture as well as entrepreneurial venture. This is quite similar to a strategic planning model that we use for some organization, but what I need to highlight is the fact that this will be done at a very informal level as well as very simple level at the entrepreneurial as well as a business level. So we will stop here for a small break, and after the break we will discuss what kind of corporate governance issues that will be there in a small organization, as well as what's the role of a director as well as what is the role of advisory boards in a organization like this. So we'll stop for a small break and we will continue from there. Harne? Right. Can you all hear me? Okay, thank you. So, so let us get into to the next level. Issues of corporate governance in small businesses. I mean, corporate governance you would have studied in chapter number 2. It's a big topic, especially it is quite relevant when it comes to large organizations. So corporate governance is very much simpler in small organizations compared to large organizations, because of the very simple fact that in small organization, owners as well as the managers are the same set of people, or if not, or the founders or their family members. So as a result of that, there is no agency problem. That you will hardly see the agency issue in the small organization. So if the company is not incorporated as a private limited company, there's no need to have a board of directors to start with. So in that case, a small firm may continue it as a small sole proprietorship or a partnership. However, those entrepreneurial ventures, if they're planning to go quickly or planning to limit the liability of the owners, then they get themselves registered as a private limited company. So once incorporated, then company can sell shares to the others, or venture capitalists, third parties, or private placements. Company could raise capital from the stock market if they list it, so on and so forth. So there are so many advantages of listing a company, or not the listing, actually getting incorporated as a limited liability company. Once the company is owned by shareholders, then the company must have a board of directors. So there are different types of boards that exist in a small organizations. So if you look at the nature of the board of directors of an entrepreneurial firm or a small firm, they are either very passive or very active. When I say passive or active, when it comes to decision making, for example, some organizations, the board of directors are very actively getting engaged in the business operations, whereas in some other boards, they are not that involved in the business decision making. So you will have both these types in a small organization. If the stocks or if the shares are closely held by the founding owners or the immediate families, and obviously they do manage the company on day-to-day basis, then the board is likely to be actively involved in the operation. So basically the board itself is a shareholders, and they do get actively involved in the day-to-day operations. They typically don't have external directors. There's no requirement to do so. Even if you have external directors, they are very passive people. They are not really engaged in the businesses. In most of these cases, the primary role of a board of directors simply to be a figurehead, simply to satisfy the law, because the law requires you to have board of directors, and as a result of that, since for the sake of having a board of directors, you have that. So that is a very passive type of board of directors that you see in this particular area. However, if the particular venture is funded by venture capitalists or a private equity, then it typically have very active boards or board of directors, because the venture capitalists usually expect board seats as exchange for their investment. So once on the board, venture capitalists, they are very powerful members of the board. They are highly involved in the strategic management of the operation. And so that is when it comes to the situation when you have external investors on the company. So when you have venture capitalists or the private equity investors, then they are very aggressive, as well as they are very actively involved in the business. And sometimes in some organization have somebody called advisory boards, because in small businesses usually the business is managed by the entrepreneur himself, as well as his family members, as well as his relatives. So they will not have certain level of skills and the knowledge. For example, they may not have the knowledge on law. They may not have the knowledge on accounting or the financing. They may not have knowledge in research and development likewise. So in order to get this external knowledge that is required for them to run the organization, they sometimes appoint advisory boards. So advisory board is a group of external business people who sort of meet periodically, who will advise the owners on the strategies as well as other issues. These are, the board of directors who are in the advisory board are usually the experts, typically the retired bankers, lawyers. They are the typical profiles that you get invited to serve the advisory boards in small organizations. So that's another type of board that you may come across in small businesses. Right, so these are the types of board that may exist, but the board's role is not that serious. Though the corporate governance is not that serious when it comes to small businesses management. Then let's look at the sources of innovation in a small business. So Mr. Peter Drucker, he's a famous management guru, has written a book on innovation and entrepreneurship. He proposes 7 sources of innovation that could be there in a small business. The first type of first source of innovation is unexpected innovation. Now, if I were to explain what unexpected innovation is, that it is an unexpected success, an unexpected failure, or an unexpected outside event that can be a symptom for a unique opportunity. Now, if there is a significant change in the outside opportunity, outside world, or a technological breakthrough, that could provide the opportunity for somebody to start a new business. Now, for example, invention of internet is a unexpected outside event that took place. Now, as a result of that, there are many internet-based businesses that are running in the organization. So that itself has created the platform for you to start a new business. So that is one source of innovation that the business has. So because of the industry structure has got changed. Second level of source of innovation is the incongruity. So this is incongruity is a discrepancy between the reality and what everyone assumes about it. Now for example, if you look at, just to give an example, now there are a large number of e-commerce firms that are there in the world, and all these companies do deliver goods to the particular owner's premises. If you order somebody, they will deliver it to you. Usually UPS or FedEx or any other courier company do deliver it to your doorstep. But the problem is there has to be somebody who has to sign and accept. Otherwise they don't deliver. So it has to be returned. The reality is that even though many people do order online, by the time the item is delivered, you are not at home. So that you are unable to sign that, so the courier company has to come at the rate, or you have to go to the courier company, so it's a major chaos. So one particular company has identified this particular gap in the market. This company's name is ZBox. So what they did was, they designed a hard plastic container that can be opened by 2 parties. One party that could open is the courier company, the other party that could open is the owner. So when you have ZBox installed at your premises, courier company can come and deposit, can come and open that particular box using their key and lock it. Items can be kept inside and go. And the owner come, once the owner come, they can use their key to open this particular box and then take item out. So this solves the entire problem that was there earlier. And apparently, even though it's a very simple service, it did not exist at the time of ZBox was invented. So that is another source of innovation. Third source of innovation is innovation based on the process need. if you see there's a issue with a particular there's a issue with a particular process, then you can innovate the particular process. Now, for example, Uber or the Pick Me for that matter has innovated. There was a process need. Process need is that customers has a requirement to know what are the cabs around me rather than calling in somebody, and that was a need, and it was not being managed by the cab service companies. So they came up with a GPS tracking system, so you could track all the cabs that are near you, so you can pick and choose the cab that you want. That is a innovation based on process needs. That's the third source of innovation. And the fourth one is the changes in the industry or the market structure. A business is ready for an innovative product or service or approach to the business when the underlying foundation of the industry or market shift. If there's a change in the industry or the market structure, then that could provide a source for innovation. Now, for example, there are certain channels that has been introduced to Sri Lanka. For example, Buddhist channels. That in channels you have only the Buddhism and those related programs, which was not there earlier. Why? The increasing number of people now start pursuing Buddhism, as well as there's a elderly generation who wants to watch Buddhist programs. And traditional channels, of course, did not cater into that particular demand. So there was a separate requirement in Sri Lanka for Buddhist related programs. So there's a growth of Buddhist channel, changes in industry of the market structure. FM radio stations, again there's a change in the industry and the market structure, so there was programs to capture that. So likewise there could be many examples as such. Then the next one is change in the demographics, changes in the people's size, age structure, composition, employment, level of education, income, that can create opportunities for innovation. Now, for example, today, if you look at the change of demographics, people don't have much time because both parents are working, kids are going to school up and down, and all the people are almost occupied. So people don't have sometimes to go to the shop and buy their groceries. So now you can order groceries online. So there is a change in the demographics, so that as a result of that there was a business for that. So likewise there are many cab services, even the coin operated laundries. People don't have time to even to operate their washing machines at home, so you have laundries everywhere in Sri Lanka now which are coin operated. So likewise change of demographics, age structure also, as a result of these things there are opportunities for new business models. Then changes in perceptions and the moods and the meaning also provides opportunities for businesses to grow. Now, for example, another trend that takes place in the world is nationalism. Now, people were earlier they are proud of using foreign-based products. Now the trend is to use locally made products. So that itself will drive an opportunity for you to start a locally based or locally manufactured products. So likewise, changes in perceptions, modes and the meanings will create opportunities for new businesses. And the new knowledge, advances in scientific and non-scientific knowledge can create new products and new markets. One example is the medical food or genetically modified food. Genetically modified crops now, for example, because of this change in weather patterns, now you cannot predict. It has come to a situation the weather patterns cannot be predicted. Now, as a result of that, the agriculture industry is in a high risk position, because sometimes they cannot withstand the excessive heat as well as excessive water. So there was a market for genetically modified crops. So you have developed such products so that it could withstand the extreme weather conditions. So that is because of the breakthrough of the science and technology, you could come up with products. So likewise. So these are some sources of innovation that could use to start a new business or a new entrepreneurial venture. Now let us look at what factors affecting a new venture's success. So there are many factors that are impacting a success of a new venture. So there are three main factors that could help the success or a failure of the business. The first one is the structure of the industry. Second one is the new venture's business strategy, and the third one is the behavioral characteristics of the entrepreneur. So these are the three factors that impact the new venture's success. So let's look at the first one. How the structure of the industry is impacting the new venture success. So for example, if a new venture enters to a rapidly changing industry, if a particular new venture is entering into an industry which is changing rapidly, then there is a high chance of success in this particular industry. For example, if the new venture is trying to enter into a very stable industry, this particular venture is less likely to be successful. However, if you try to enter into a rapidly changing industry, it increases chances of success for that particular organization. And also, if the industry is having a fast growth or industry is in the growth stage, then again a new venture is likely to be successful in a high growth industries. So if you are entering into a rapidly changing or a fast growing industry, then there is a high chance of successful in this particular venture. The reason being that in a fast growing industry, the competition is less intense because there is enough room for everybody to grow. And also fast markets also allow new ventures to make some mistakes, and also they could correct mistakes and come back to the business. Right. And also the other one is the low industry concentration. What is known as industry concentration is the number of people, the percentage of market share held by the first three organizations. Now in an oligopoly market, you usually see there are 3 or 4 operators who are controlling the entire business. So if you are trying to enter into that industry with a high concentration, then it is highly likely that you will be successful. So for example, it is always recommended to enter into industry which is less concentration. So for example, if there are a large number of small players, then you could differentiate yourself against the competition very easily. So as a result of that, it is always recommended to enter into an industry that has low concentration. So the reason being that when the industry has dominant firms, the remaining competitors are relatively weak, and as a result of that, all your sort of existing established players will attack the small guys quite fast. So as a result of that, you may get into a direct competition with a major rival, and the small companies often don't have that type of resources to get into a fight with a new entity as such. And the industry product characteristics is the third one. If your industry or the product that you are dealing with, or the product or market segment is different, if you have different types of product versus a homogeneous product, you are likely to be successful if your market is a heterogeneous market. That means it will allow you to again differentiate your product with many other offerings available in the market. But if the product is homogeneous, then you are unlikely to be successful because this product is already being established. So structure of the industry plays a vital role for the success or a failure of a new venture. Then the company's business strategy. If you could differentiate the product or the service that you offer from those of other competitors in the areas of quality and the service, and if you focus the product on the customer needs in the segment of market, then those products could be successful. So you should be able to differentiate your product or service, as well as you should be able to focus on a customer's pain point in order to successfully operate a new venture into a particular business. So there are many examples as such. For example, again, a PicMe has been focusing on a customer pain point. So they are quite successful. Amazon has been successfully operating on a customer's pain point. So there are many cases like that which will be there. However, it is very crucial that the new venture analyze its competitors to assess their likely response in the company once they enter into market. And the third one is the behavioral or the characteristics of the entrepreneur, and also which is impacting the successful of the business. So let us look at that in detail. If the entrepreneur's ability to identify the potential venture opportunities earlier and better than most other people's. So entrepreneurs are usually focused on opportunities, not on problems. And if they could pick an opportunity, an idea, better than any other person could exploit, that particular venture is likely to be very successful. So if the firm has a strong entrepreneurial orientation that is very innovative, proactive, and willing to take risks, those business ventures are likely to be very successful in the business. That is one way the entrepreneurial characteristics could provide some kind of support for entrepreneurial decision making. Then the second one is a sense of urgency. Not only they have identified the opportunities, but the entrepreneurs pushing hard and working hard to execute. So whatever the business ideas that they have in their mind. So basically they have a high need for achievement. These are the personal characteristics. Usually these kind of entrepreneurs have high need for achievement. They want to put their ideas into action quite fast. They are very aggressive. Sometimes, these are personal characteristics of these entrepreneurs in most of the time. A detailed knowledge of the key to success in the industry. Sometimes you need to have detailed knowledge about your expertise. For example, if you are running an e-commerce company, you need to have some kind of expertise in web development, online marketing, online tools, at least some kind of programming knowledge and Excel. So that is that detailed knowledge about the market as well as the processes. So that is that third, so your capacity and the knowledge. And the fourth one is access to outside help to supplement their skills, knowledge, and abilities. Because entrepreneur will not have all the skill set that is available, that is required to run the business. So they should have the access from the outside market for you to successfully operate the business. So over the time, what usually entrepreneurs develop a network of people who have the skills and the knowledge, and entrepreneurs should be able to tap into these knowledges. Through their enthusiasm, the entrepreneurs are able to attract key investors, partners, creditors, bankers, and employees. So in summary, so it is entrepreneurs' personal characteristics such as identification of opportunities, sense of urgency, detailed knowledge about the industry, as well as access to outside help that determine the success or the failure uh, of the business. Now, there are certain suggestions for locating an opportunity and formulating a business strategy. One suggestion is that for entrepreneur to start a new business is tap a counter trend. Now, for example, every trend, there is likely to be a potentially lucrative counter trend. When a trend hits hot, there is always a chance of a counter trend. Because now, for example, there was some times back there was a trend for junk food. There was a trend for junk food. At the same time, the counter trend was low carbonated drinks, low carb diets. So that's a counter trend. Some people have tapped the counter trend and introduced healthy foods. That is a counter trend. Second one is eat off the established company's plate. So it could happen to be a supplier for a fast-growing company. If a particular company is growing, and if you happen to be a supplier for them, then again you could sort of tag along with their business model. Now, for example, pizza has a box which carries a plastic. The moment the Pizza Hut is something that is growing, and pizza is delivered in a box, and that can be used for advertising space. And there's one company that has used pizza delivery for advertising purposes. So that is a particular company which is growing, then you use that particular opportunity to get in there. Switch the niche is the third one. A company may be able to identify a successful product or a service that caters to a particular market or a niche. So you always try to identify a niche market, or a small untapped segment, especially in the Windy Parker's case, is such market, a niche market. And the fourth one is borrowing a business model. For example, Netflix has used the DVD concept. So, for example, DVDs can be borrowed, DVDs can be rented. Netflix is online delivery, online entertainment delivery service. So therefore, they also came up with a model. You don't have to buy the entire movie. No, you can rent it for a few days for a small fee. So that's borrowing a business model from somebody else. So these are some of the suggestions for picking as well as formulating a business strategy to get hold of a successful business. Then let us look at sub-stages of small business development. Okay, so there are several steps that a small business will go through in its life. The first stage is existence. At this point, an entrepreneur faces the problem of obtaining customers and delivering the promised product or service. That's the challenge the company is facing at the early stage. The organization structure is very simple at this stage, existence level. The entrepreneur does everything and directly supervises subordinates. Systems are minimal, and basically the owner is the business. So that's the existence stage. So if you successfully navigate this particular stage, you will move into the survival stage. So once you are able to satisfy a sufficient number of customers, and if you could deliver your product or service successfully, you will reach this particular stage. So usually most of the organization will finish at the existence level. Basically, they will not be able to deliver the product, or they will not be able to get a sufficient number of customers, so they have to cut down the business. Survival stage is the companies that are moving to the next level. And those who are reaching the survival stage are concerned about generating the cash flows needed to buy new assets. And also they want to finance the growth to satisfy more and more customers. So these are two needs at this particular level. At this stage, the organization structure is still simple. But it probably may have a sales manager or a supervisory level who would carry out owners' well-defined orders. But the problem at this stage is, in a small business, is to find a person who is qualified to supervise the business for a small salary. That's the biggest issue at that stage. So what the entrepreneurs usually do is, they use a family member to get this work done. For example, when the father starts the business, when the business grows, probably you get wife to run the other services as well, or some of your friends. So this is what usually happens in survival stage. So a company that remains in this stage for a long time is often called a mom and pop shop. It earns a marginal return on the investment, and business could continue as a lifestyle company as is. And most of the private companies are in this nature. Then you'll get into the successful stage. Once you navigate the survival stage, you could get into the success stage. By this point, the company's sales have reached a level where a firm is not only profitable, but has sufficient cash flow to reinvest in itself. The key issue at this stage is whether the company should be used as a platform for growth or continue as is. So the business decisions, you need to make a business decision whether to grow or whether to continue as is. The company is getting transformed into a functionally structured organization. Now you get into have a HR department, sales department, separate finance department, marketing department, etc. So that is a functionally structured organization. But it still relies on the entrepreneurs for all key decisions. So at this stage, there are two options available. The first one is disengagement. The company can now follow a established strategy and remain at strategy almost indefinitely. By now, the functional managers have taken over some of the entrepreneurs' duties. Sometimes the company may change its legal entity from a partnership to a private limited company. But it is still primarily owned by founders or founders' family. And the board of directors are either active or very inactive. Growth strategies are not pursued because the market not allow you to grow, or the owner is happy with what he is getting. So that's the disengagement model. So you continue the business as is. The next phase is the growth. You may decide to grow the business. At this stage, the entrepreneur risks all his available cash, or else get outside investors to fuel the growth of the company. Strategic and operational planning are extensive and deeply involve the owner. Managers with an eye to the company's future are recruited at this stage. So when you have this kind of characteristics, this is an entrepreneurial high growth company. The emphasis now is on the teamwork and how to grow rather than looking at entrepreneurs' personal actions and energy. The personal values and the philosophy of the founder are slowly transferred into a developing corporate culture. Stage D is the takeoff. Next stage. The key problem at this stage how to grow as well as how to finance the growth. At this stage, sometimes companies getting some external shareholders, or sometimes they go for IPO, initial public offering. The entrepreneur must learn to delegate to specialized professional managers or to team of managers who form top management of the company. So the entrepreneurs mostly takes a backstage at this stage and delegate all the decision making as well as operation to the top management of the company. Delegation is a key issue for a company at this stage. A functional structure of the company should now be solidly in place. Operational and strategic planning greatly involve the hired manager, but the company is still dominated by the entrepreneur's presence. Vertical and the horizontal strategies are pursued. That is the next stage, the takeoff stage. At this point, the entrepreneur either is able to manage the transition from a small to large company, or sell his shares for a profit, or leave the premises, or taking a backseat as a shareholder only. The composition of the board of directors changes from dominance of the family members and to a large percentage of outside shareholders. The biggest danger at this stage, the owner's desire to remain in control is the biggest issue, because at this stage owner is finding it difficult to delegate as well as to trust the professional manager. So it's a kind of a dilemma that they're getting in place. Even though he or she lacks the managerial skills necessary to run the established organization, some entrepreneurs would prefer to keep control as well as get involved in the business. And most of the businesses will not have succession plans to replace the current owners. And finally, you will get into the resource maturity. At this point, the small company has adopted most of the characteristics of an established company. It may still be a small or medium-sized company, but it is recognized as a market leader or important force in the business. The greatest concerns of a company at this stage are controlling the financial plans, financial gains, and how to retain the flexibility and the entrepreneurial spirit, because the company is getting very bureaucratic at this stage. So it's a company will become a fully fledged corporation when you reach the last stage. So these are the stages of small business. How could it develop from a very small business to a large business? And there are some issues in evaluation and control. One evaluation and control is that there is a thin line between the debt and the equity. Sometimes people obtain debt to replace equity, or sometimes you obtain equity to replace debt. And we know by corporate finance is not a viable strategy. Sometimes you invest money on pet project. Now, for example, that's the second one, lifestyle part of the financial statement. Now, for example, if you're running a food company, there is no need for you to have a holiday home. But the lifestyle of entrepreneur is to have holiday homes for his involvement. So therefore, the company may have to invest on the holiday homes likewise. So assets may include some really non-related business properties as well. So assets may include the personal jets, mountain chalets, automobiles, which has nothing to do with the business. personal and the business wealth also getting combined. And you cannot rely on the standard financial formulas like ROE, return on equity, because you will have the personal investment sometimes goes in onto the business as well, especially the foreign travels. Now, usually even though the owner's personal traveling is getting charged to the organization. So, as a result of that, at this stage, you will find it very difficult for you to evaluate and control the companies using the traditional financial statements. And you should have non-financial matrices to evaluate and manage this kind of companies. This is some of the characteristics of a challenges that you come across when you're dealing with evaluation and control. You will see sometimes you will have the asset liability mismatch. For example, some companies do fund the fixed assets with short-term loans. So as a result of that, you will see the standard financial formulas don't always apply in this situation. And also, what is again, it is very much important how you transfer of power in the family business. In phase one, what is happening is, it is in the first phases, it's a owner managed business, phase one. Usually the phase one starts as a startup and continue until the entrance of another family member into the business on a full-time basis. Family consideration influence the direction of the business. At this point, the founder as well as the business is considered as one entity. At phase two, you will see the second generation getting involved in the business. The children begin to learn the business at the dining room table during early childhood and then through part-time and the vacation employment. So you will see the second generation of the entrepreneur is getting involved in the business on part-time basis. The family and the business become one, and family now begins to identify itself with the business. So you will have the second generation also getting trained and on the businesses. Phase 3, partnership between the generations. At this stage, a son or a daughter of the founder has acquired the sufficient business and managerial competences so that he or she can be involved in the key decisions for at least part of the company. The entrepreneur's offspring, however, has to first gain respect from the firm's employees and other managers, show that he or she can do the job right. Another issue is the lack of willingness of the founder to share authority with the son or daughter. Consequently, a common tactic taken by some sons and daughters in their family business is to take a job in a large established corporation where they can gain valuable experience and subsequently join the father's business. That is the third phase. And the phase 4, the last stage, you transfer the power. Instead of being forced to sell the company, when he or she can no longer manage the business, the founder has the option in a family business of turning over to the next generation as a part of their inheritance. So you pass the business from one generation to another generation as an inheritance. Often at this stage, the founder moves to the position of a chairman of the board and promotes one of the children to the position of the CEO, the managing director. Unfortunately, at this stage, some of the founders cannot resist getting involved in the business as well. So as a result of that, you get into a problem with your son or daughter who's managing the current business. As to avoid this problem, what usually the founders do is they sell his or her stock or physically leave the company and allow the next generation the freedom to run the organization. This is the phase when actually this is happening in family business as well. And finally, you will have a lot of challenges that you may not come across in a small business that you would otherwise will be doing in a large organization. So as a result of that, managing a small business is quite challenging, as well as strategic planning in a small organization is quite challenging compared to a large organization. So having said that, this explains why some entrepreneurial ventures are successful almost immediately and other fails even without becoming break-even. Research also indicates that the writing a business plan improves chances of success. And also research says the differentiation and the focus are the competitive strategies that the new business should focus on. Also, organization should have a succession plan and also has a way to transfer the authority from one generation to the other generation, and possibly to engage when the organization grows, to engage the professional business managers to run the organization. So those are my concluding remarks on this particular lesson, and if you have any particular questions, you may raise them now. If you have any questions, you may raise now. Yes, Rajeepan. Somebody's typing. Who's typing? Okay, looks like there are no questions. So in the next class, what I'm planning to do is, I'm planning to do a small case study. I will share the case study in advance, and what I'm planning to do is I recommend all of you to go through this particular case study and come. It's based on Google incorporation, and we will try and discuss the case study in this particular class. So I will share the case study in advance, and we will be able to discuss the case study in detail in this particular class. So be ready with the case study. I will share the case study in advance, so you should be able to read it in advance and prepare and come. So that the case study will be based on Google, which is going to be our last session. So thank you very much for your participation, and I look forward to see you in the next week as well. Thank you.